Why do you think, John? Why do you think that they do this with these like Alvin Bragg and so many other DAs and prosecutors and judges? Why do they let people out? Why do they arrest people if they arrest them? They arrest people 39 times, 17 times, 20 times, violent crimes, things that they really should be putting somebody away for a couple of years at least, and they just let them out. And then eventually they just go and kill somebody, stab somebody, rape somebody. Like I just saw somebody in Florida just got released on some judge released him. He was attempted rape. Some young black guy, I think, there's some girl attempted rape, beat her up a little bit, but I think she escaped or something like that. And the judge just let him go on probation or something and promised to do better. Maybe, I don't know, maybe go to therapy. It's like, how are you going to put somebody out in the street who just was waiting in a trail, like a wooded trail, to rape somebody? That person needs to go away for a long time, regardless of whether they're successful or not. That's a crazy person. That's a deeply sociopathic, psychopathic, predatory person. What are they doing? Why would you give them another chance? Obviously, they can't control their impulses. What is going on in Democrats' minds when they just do this like 30 times in a row per person?
So I think when you look at these candidates, right, who are they funded by? They're funded by billionaires. What are the billionaires tied to? They're tied to real estate. What do the Democratic Party want to accomplish in New York? They want to ultimately bring in the city of yes, which is going to fundamentally transform every working class neighborhood in New York City. It's going to make places where they're traditionally single or two-family homes, and it's going to open it up that anything could be built there, skyscrapers, all of this stuff. What would get people to move out of their single family homes and their two-family homes and their and close up their mom and pop shops? I mean, they showed us what they did, right? You could go to Costco, you could go to Target during COVID, but you couldn't go to Henry's nail and bolt store or Henry's locksmith. Though, mom and pop shops were dangerous, but corporations weren't dangerous. And I think what's happening is they want a fundamental transformation of New York City into a 15-minute city, into a city for the rich. Again, they're unaffected by these policies. Bill Ackman, where he lives personally, there's no crime in his neighborhood. When he comes to Manhattan, he's surrounded by armed guards. He doesn't live the same type of Manhattan that we live. He doesn't ride the subways. When he goes out to a restaurant, he has armed guards in the restaurant with him. They walk him and escort him to the restaurant. It's safe for him. It's safe for Donald Trump when he goes up in the Trump Tower and he's got 1 million people with him. It's safe for Eric Trump. For me and you, yeah, it might be safe for us, but is it for our wives? Is it for our children? Is it for our elderly parents and our grandparents? No, it's not. And because they don't care, they don't live the same type of lifestyle I live. And I got to sit there, and I'm saying, why would a rational person who has the ability and competence to make a lot of money, why would you ever fund an Alvin Bragg? Why would you ever fund a Zohran Mamdani? Why would you ever fund Andrew Cuomo? Why? Because your interests are their interest. What's your interest? Your interest is development. Your interest is getting city contracts. I mean, look at what's happening right now. We're being told that as all the people that are being deported, we're still paying $1 billion a year to house these people. We just renewed the contract in January. It runs through the entire of Trump's presidency. Who got the contract? New York City Hotel Owners Association, right? Like, we're being told, like, oh, we're going to get all these people out that all the Democrats just welcome in. But you know what? We're going to take some money from the city, a couple of $1 billion more to keep them housed in New York City. And it's like, it's so much mixed messaging. And I think a lot of it has to do with money. And I think there is a transformation happening in New York City. And just before I end my long-winded rant, if you look at Rikers Island and why they want to close it, they don't want to close Rikers Island because they care about prisoners. They want to close Rikers Island because it's prime real estate.
Yep.
Wow.
I do want to play. Yeah.
I think you're right about that, by the way, too.
No, that's exactly what they want to do. That's exactly what
I had the same suspicions, but I didn't really look into it. But that's what I thought. It has to do with like real estate development. They want to buy parts of the city, control more of the city, own more of the city, make us all renters. That kind of thing. That's what I assumed. Because obviously, they're not putting in millions. Soros isn't putting in millions or billions of dollars over the years for people just to release prisoners 1 million times because they care about marginalized people, marginalized Black people, and marginalized Latino people and immigrants. They don't give a shit about them.
The idea behind that, though, was this: they were going to open. They wanted to close Rikers, right? so they could have their, I guess, I don't know what the fuck they were going to do.
Maybe, by the way, Cuomo was all on board for that.
Cuomo was all on board with it. You're absolutely right.
He started the train.
Here's what the timeline was supposed to be with that. I know this pretty well. They were going to close Rikers Island. They were going to close the prison on Rikers Island. Okay. And in the stead of Rikers, they were going to build, the idea was that they were going to build community jails, smaller institutions throughout the 5 boroughs. Okay. That's one of the reasons why the Tombs that in downtown Manhattan got torn down and is a lot smaller than what it currently is. That's why Brooklyn's jail in downtown Brooklyn on Atlantic Avenue, that's why that got torn down. Okay. The idea was to create smaller houses of incarceration that eventually would be like pretrial things, community jails, they called them, right? But here's the issue. What the commies wanted to do was they wanted to keep the community jail part tied up in red tape and tied up in committee. They were going to complain about it, but not do anything about it. They were going to complain about it, not do anything about it. Meanwhile, you have thousands of incarcerated people. They got to go somewhere. Where are they going to go? You're going to ship them upstate? You're going to ship them to Sing Sing or one of these other prisons upstate? No, of course not. Because they haven't. A lot of them are still awaiting trial. So what are you going to do? You're just going to let them out. And that is what they really want. That's what the communists really, really want. We're talking about people we are talking about people who are fully committed to the idea of abolishing prisons. They think the very idea of locking violent criminals away is a form of white supremacy. They genuinely do, folks.
And if you go back to 2020, Andrew Cuomo agrees.
He
released more prisoners in New York than any governor ever in history. And he released 43 cop killers, his parole board. I mean, and it's like, to me, it's so unforgivable, all of his actions. And I sit here and I'm like, how could anyone sit there and look a New Yorker in the face and be like, you should vote for this guy?
I don't know, dude.
Why was he releasing cop killers? What was the reasoning for that?
Because everything that Isaiah just said, Andrew Cuomo subscribed to it all, or he got bullied enough by the radicals to do it. Maybe he's a Hakeem Jeffries. He blows with the wind, Andrew Cuomo. He's like, he's a willow. He's not an oak. The wind blows this way. Andrew Cuomo's blowing this way. It blows that way. Now he wants to pretend like, oh, I'm a moderate. I'm common sense now. It's like,
Do you
remember yourself?
No, you're 100% right. I do remember that.